Good morning. Glad to see you all here. I'm going to give you this little caveat. I just came in from India yesterday, so if things start to get kind of cloudy and foggy after a while, I'm going to blame it on the jet lag, so just so you know. Today's talk is really, it's called Getting From Here to There, and what we did within the last year is we actually replaced our digital asset management platform. Some companies may be in the works, a lot of companies are thinking about starting up, but when you have something established, how do you get from that platform to a new platform? So today's topic of conversation is really about the process that we used from getting from here to there. It's not about the vendors, because you are all going to have your own rationale for leaving or going to someone new. And that decision and that process about how you choose the right one is really sort of based on your criteria and what your requirements are. So today we're really going to talk about the process. How do you, and it feels like a very monumental task, how do you get from where you are to where you want to be? So a little bit about General Mills. Who are we? We are a food company. We started out as a flour milling company back in the 1860s. We've done things like build black boxes for submarines. We created Nerf balls. We've owned clothing companies. We've owned restaurants. And today, what we've really tried to focus on is being a multinational, multi-branded food company. And our mission is to serve the world by making food people love. And you may be familiar with some of our brands, which I'll talk about in just a second, but some of our big sites are BettyCrocker.com, Pillsbury.com, Tablespoon.com, and we're really, on our sites and our branded sites, we really talk about product and recipes and that whole food concept. These are some of the brands you may be familiar with. We have more than this, but I think there's probably something on here you can recognize, and General Mills is very proud of where their brands are going. So, where we were. We had the platform that we started out on for 14 years. There was a little bit of a love-hate relationship, which you probably have with your own platforms. We decided to look at something different after numerous upgrades, after numerous product features and functionalities that either came or didn't came. Performance was an issue for us, so we decided that it was really time. We didn't want to go down the route of doing something yet again with that particular vendor, so we decided that it was time to replace. We had a really short window of opportunity to get to a decision on what new platform we were going to go with. We started out in August of 2014, and by October of that same year, we had to have our vendor picked and our financial stuff aligned for our planning process. So how do we do that, and what's the quickest way to get there? We decided to hire a consultant, and many of you who are in this space know who Teresa Regley is, and so we engaged the Real Story Group, and she came in and helped us do interviews with our end users, interviews with our technology folks, interviews with anyone who had sort of a touch point on our DAM system, and helped us really put together the story of what everyone was looking for in a new digital asset management platform, right? Because the marketing people have a little different need than the people on the technology side, than perhaps the people on the e-commerce side. So we really wanted something that would be holistic to everyone. We began those interviews, and she talked to us, and the big things were it had to be a global system, and a truly global system. It had to have performant-rich APIs, because we have a lot of integrations at General Mills. It had to be something that had feature-rich, functional, performant UI. The biggest thing we heard from our end users is we can't find anything, we don't know where our downloads go. It needed to be intuitive. And we really wanted to work with a vendor who had a strategy and a roadmap for the future. And you think about that and you think, yeah, that's great, but what does it get you? Because if they don't have a vision, your platform can become what you had before, and that's what we really wanted to try to avoid. So, what did we do? With Teresa's help, we developed a short list. We sent out requests for information, requests for product. She helped us put together a series of use cases that we used, that we said, here are the things when you come to demo for us that we want you to show us. And it was things around project management, it was things about digital asset management, there was one key use case that was specific to technology. And those are the things, all of those things put together, when the vendors came in to demo for us, we scored them against those things. How completely and accurately did they fill out their request for information? On the things that we asked for in RFPs, did you give answers? Did you give us just the status quo stuff, or did you really think about what we were asking? And then in terms of the demos, how much or how little did they meet the use cases that we put in front of them? We scored all those things. And then from that scoring process, we selected one vendor to move forward to do a proof of concept for us. And it was both a technical proof of concept and a functional proof of concept. So they set up their application in a cloud base. We got to hit against their APIs and test some things out. We got to play with assets in their system. And so it's not a full-fledged, I'm going to try everything that you bring to the table. It's a, based on what we've seen and what we've heard, does it look like this is going to meet what we've asked for? And the answer was yes, and so we made our decision and we moved ahead. So that process ran us through probably, it really kind of took a little longer, probably end of December-ish by the time we finally got everything locked up. And then we decided, so what's next? Well, if you're going to run a successful project, and it doesn't matter whether it's a digital asset management project or something else, you really need an owner of whatever that platform is. So we need someone who could be the decision maker, someone who's going to be your champion, right? Who's going to be excited and present things to the users about, look what's coming, isn't this fabulous? And communicate early and often about features and functionality that you're going to get that's better than what you have. And somebody who's really going to own the change management and knowledge transfer process, which seems sort of obvious, but if you have a project team who's managing your migrations and then somebody else is going to take over the platform later, you better give them some information about what they're going to be supporting, or it's not going to be very successful. When you start off with a project, you want to know that you have resources, right? Who's going to do all the work? And there's a lot of work when you migrate from a platform to another platform. So having the right people at the right time and the right place. So think of, as my little graphic shows, the A-team, right? Who are the best people to be working on your project at that time? And something that we really struggled with about the time we wrapped up our decision-making process, we had a company reorganization. And in that process, everyone who was associated with the original project decision was let go, except for myself and the enterprise architect. So all that contextual, historical knowledge that all those people had, you basically start at ground zero with new people in roles who really don't know what the images are about, or what the metadata is about, or what the processes are, and how do you move forward, right? You're sort of behind the wheel before you even get started. So that was a bit of a challenge for us, and new people in all the roles, it can be great if they have at least some knowledge about digital asset management, or they've had some sort of side part of a process with what you're doing. But that wasn't the case. So it took us a little longer to ramp up from that sort of setback than we would have liked, but the project moves on as it always does. So how many people and who are those people going to be? Our core project team had 5 General Mills people and then two people from our vendor staff who were our core project team. All in all, as people flowed in and out of the project at various levels, we probably had 30 people. By the time you factor in your infrastructure teams, your database people, your end users and everything, our core team sort of flexed from that 7 people to about 30. In hindsight, we should have had probably a couple of more analysts. We have a lot of integrations at General Mills, and so one person solely working on integrations and another person really doing sort of the whole UI vendor platform would have been really helpful, but live and learn, right? If you knew today what you knew then, we'd all be in very different places. And I would say from a testing perspective, engage your power users. They know a lot about what's going on with their assets. They know how the system should work if they've been a part of the process. And we really tried to make them a part of the process, even at the requirements level, because they have a lot of knowledge about their locale or their particular assets that they work with. And so they can be a very valuable part of your project team. So when you think about going from one system to another, think about the new vendor that you're working with probably has different capabilities than the vendor you had. What's in your old system that really needs to port to your new system? Because there will be gaps. There will be gaps in the functionality that your new vendor provides, and hopefully you're getting more than you originally had in the platform you're coming from. So how do you meet those gaps? Are they important, right? Just because you had it in the old system doesn't mean you really need to carry it forward. So think about that. So what do you have that has to be there day one and what can wait? It's choices. And we found that there were certain things that the power user said, we can't live without this, but we can wait for this. And sometimes it's a customization, or we really don't like to say customization, we say configuration now, right? It may be that by the time you get around to rolling out whatever that feature or capability is, maybe your vendor's going to develop it for you and you don't have to do something custom. And that's where the optimal choice would be. But consider those things as you move forward. For us, because we went through the decision-making process, then we had a reorganization. There was time between when we made our final decision and when we actually kicked off the project. So we were challenged at the time we were ready to kick off by those in power in the organization saying, well, so you came to this conclusion about how you're going to host and who's going to do these things. Are they still valid, right? Because we made decisions at the time based on what we knew or what the vendor had to offer. If the vendor has rolled out a new product platform, have they rolled out software releases that get you farther than you originally thought you were going to be? Or maybe it's just your own company's readiness, right? The vendor we chose had cloud-based options, but from a support perspective internally, we weren't ready to talk about it because we didn't feel we had the necessary support people to do that. Maybe by the time you get to the point of rolling out or starting your project, maybe that's changed and you would come to a different conclusion based on your knowledge at that time. So it's worth taking a second look just to be sure. Schedules. If scheduling at your company works anything like ours, we say, here's a date we want to meet, and then we back our way into getting all the work done, which, as you may know, is not the optimal way to do things because it causes you to take shortcuts or, do things a different way than you'd really like to do because it's a time factor. It takes time. You're working with metadata, you're working with assets, you're working with people, and the requirements gathering process to get where you need to be can be time consuming. So you can't make it last forever, but give it its due diligence, right? You want to do things the right way, or at least you want to try to do things the right way. So give it accurate time to do the reporting, the requirements gathering that you really need to do. Migration. Maybe you've done migrations before and you have a really good idea how long something is going to take. We didn't. Have no idea how long it's going to take to move 650,000 assets and their metadata from one system to another. And so how do you gauge how long that's going to take? It's a shot in the dark at best until you give it a try, and then you can sort of extrapolate from that. But it will take time, that is for sure. How many integrations do you have? We have a number of back-end things that we're doing where we're sending image content to other systems, we're pulling things out, we're pulling data from various places, and all of those things probably need to be restructured. It's very unlikely that you'll be able to take them just as they are from that platform you had to the new platform. They have different APIs, maybe things have changed and you want to do it differently than you were originally doing it. It's your time to sort of refactor what you're doing. So look at, too, how many of those things that you have in place can you actually retire? Maybe they just no longer provide value, and that's an okay thing to go through. And will there be new ones? Maybe you're getting assets from a new part of the company that weren't there before because now you've got this great new system that everybody wants to use. And so maybe you're actually going to build new things. So take those all into consideration. And the biggest thing is to be realistic about there will be obstacles, there will be things you will miss, and so plan for that contingency because you will need it. Things will come up as part of your UI that you didn't account for. You'll be going through processes and realize, oh my God, we totally missed this thing. We didn't plan to move this piece of metadata or that chunk of metadata, or we missed this whole group of assets that we didn't account for. It will happen. It will definitely happen. And allow enough time for testing. Seems like a no-brainer, but if you have back-end things and you have a new user interface and if you have customizations, there's a lot of things to test. And so if you can't put together a formalized test plan, at least engage enough of your power users that you can split things up and sort of cover the basics at least, even if you have to roll out knowing that maybe a few things aren't in the most optimal positions, you've covered the big stuff. Can the users upload? Can they download? Are all the download options that you've created, are they working? There's going to be a lot of stuff, and it's just great if you can have a plan for what you're going to do. So on the diagram is just a couple of samples of sort of our project schedules. They adjusted, obviously, a few times as we worked through things, but have something together where you can have a goal that you're trying to reach. So you're in the thick of it now, and the first thing you need to do is, I've got 650,000 assets. How am I going to clean this all up? And our metadata, we found, unfortunately, was kind of all over the place. We didn't have required metadata that we had in our old system, so we had assets with absolutely no metadata. We had assets with duplication of metadata, and so it was this whole process of how do we get this to a point where we can actually bring it across into a new system? So our first challenge was really to find owners for the assets. Seems like that would be fairly obvious, but we had a lot of things in the system that nobody really wanted to claim. So that makes it difficult when you're trying to apply metadata when you don't even know where to start. Fix and remove metadata if you need to, and get the asset owners, once you find them, to help you with that. It's a big process. And if you're one of the lucky few who's done a very good job of managing your metadata, you're in a great place. If you're like us and reality was much different than we had actually hoped it was, there's a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do. And don't feel like everything in your platform has to move to the new system. We had one of the analysts that said, well, we paid for it, it should really come across. That's great, but if it's no longer providing value to the company or the relevancy is gone, it doesn't need to come across. You don't need to clutter up your new system with a whole bunch of stuff that just really isn't valuable anymore. So you can delete them, and what we decided to do was leave them in the old system. We tagged them in a way that said, we don't want to migrate this. And then if somebody came back and said, hey, where's this stuff of mine? We still had them there that we could pull them across if necessary. So it gave us an option that once they're deleted, they're gone, right? And so we had some options if we needed to bring things forward. And what do you use as your decision-making process for what goes and what stayed? So we established a set of guiding principles. We said, here are the things that we're going to follow as far as the new platform goes. And here's the rules that are going to sort of apply. So as we were going through the images in the old system, we would ask ourselves, does it fall into our guiding principles philosophy? And if not, we've already made the argument for things that we're going to leave behind. And at various times throughout the project, we actually use these guiding principles to help us make decisions about either assets or metadata, or when people came to us and said, well, we want to put these in there. And we said, no, they don't meet our guiding principles. So things like a unit going out and having a fun day and taking pictures of, the 650 outhouses that they have lined up for everyone to use really doesn't provide any value to the company. So we're going to say, nope, time out. We're not going to let those types of things into the system. So there's been a lot of conversation here at this DAM conference about metadata, and I will tell you that it is very important, as I'm sure most of you realize. I like to think of metadata as a garden. So you go to all the effort to work your soil and provide nutrition into your soil, and you might fertilize, and you're going to weed, and you get everything prepared, and then you plant the seeds, and then you water in the sun, and you watch it grow, and then things start to sprout, and it's a beautiful thing. Hire a taxonomist. They're worth their weight in gold, especially if you are starting from ground zero, or if you have a metadata structure that maybe isn't industry standard, or maybe you have a lot of duplication, or you're trying to do things like use your master data. They're very helpful, and they helped us align on sort of what taxonomy was right for us, and they can also help you do things like line up, maybe you've got an international or a geographical structure that doesn't meet up with sort of your base business. They can help you align on what terminology to use, and we found them incredibly helpful. Align with your master data management strategy. So for us, we went from 232 pieces of metadata to about 60, less than 70 that we now provide on a regular basis. And we get away with doing that because we have master data that we're pulling in from other sources, and we're just linking up key values from the asset level and getting that extra data for free. And so we don't have to have everything at the very basic level. And your master data can help you with that in terms of products or brands, or maybe you've got geographical information that you're using. So think about ways that you can get to metadata without having to have everything in your DAM system. And what about defaults? So certain types of assets for us had certain defaults that we could use, but the users at the end could change it if they needed to. So we always wanted language on our asset. Well, for us, most thing is going to default to English, but we gave our international users the opportunity to change things if they needed to. And keep it simple. We had a lot of, we wanted, because we opened it up to everyone, we wanted everyone to put the assets, the metadata in. And so what we found is if we made it too complex or too much, they couldn't get through it, right? They're not going to do it if they have to do all this work. So balance the amount of metadata that you need with the tagging that you want to get to. Think about automation opportunities in regards to metadata. Think about taxonomy and governance and maintenance. So back to the garden analogy, if you don't take care of it, right, it's just going to be weeds. And what have you got then? So think about your migration in terms of, does it need to be done in phases or in a big bang? Think about your integrations. What needs to be there day one versus day X? Talk to your people about security. If you have metadata that's classified, like you have personal information about users or personal information about the assets, keep it secret and keep it safe. Keep that in mind as you're working through. And who's going to own the migration process? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be the vendor? Or is it going to be a combination of things? And then you get to the real fun stuff where you're actually moving things from one platform to another. And it's really more than just the images and the metadata, because you're also probably going to move security things, right? You're going to move Active Directory groups. You might move your users. So think of that in terms of how you get that data into your new system as well. So our exercise was really cross-mapping in terms of metadata from the old metadata structure to the new metadata structure. And again, use the taxonomist that you have on staff or the taxonomist you bring to the project. And you can even derive values. Some of our metadata actually lived at the folder level. And so we would just map from that folder level to where we needed it to be on the asset in the new system. And it will take time. A lot of time. So plan accordingly. And even with the best laid intentions, it will probably still go wrong. So it'll be a review, adjust, and trial and error. And the more you get through the migration process, the easier it will become as you move through the whole thing. And then be sure to validate. Is what I thought I was bringing across really showing up in my new system the way I want it to? And this is just an example of some of the migration documents. We had a lot of mapping documents in Excel spreadsheets that helped us get from the old value to the new value in the right fields. And then we're there, and it's time to go live. Communicate, 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 communicate. Get those damn owners, those damn champions to help you tell everyone about this wonderful new world you're going to be living in. Everyone can upload. What changed for us was we didn't go with a rights management system. We put the onus on the employee to say, when I upload my image, I'm going to put how this image can or cannot be used in the asset itself. And so when you as an employee come to download that, you need to read what it says and use it accordingly, which is a big change for us. And know that once you implement, it's not the end, it's really just the beginning. You're going to grow this thing as it becomes live and as users start to use it. So a couple of things to think about. Don't underestimate your relationship with the vendor. Way back at the beginning when you were talking with your RFIs and your RFPs, you probably asked them things, do you have a vision, do you have a strategy? And it's really easy to read the documents at that time, but once you get closer to implementation, it's really things that you need to really start having conversations about. And what is the real maturity of their platform? Are they structured so that they can help you with all the needs you're going to have as you grow your platform out? And what's your ongoing support going to look like? Who's doing what? Are you first here? Are they first here? What are your SLAs? What's the patching process? What's the upgrade process? And how do we, as the customer, get feedback back to you about things we need as we grow our platform? And remember this, change is inevitable. By the time you implement, it will be time to change. And this is what we got. This is what our new platform looks like. We're all very excited about it. We feel it's been a really good move for us. And our old platform will be retired sometime in the first part of fiscal year 18. So it's been around a little bit longer than we wanted, but the entire migration process took a little bit longer than we wanted it to. So.